welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look at ways we can come together to help each other in the ministry. And today we have again with us attorney David Gibbs III. He's with the National Center for Life and Liberty and has been a great friend of Free Will Baptist. So, hey, Attorney Gibbs, thank you for coming back to be with us today. A lot's happened. It's not been that long since we last spoke, but the CARES Act was finally passed by the House and the Senate and signed by the President. Can you give our churches a sense of what this means for them at this particular time?
Well, Dr. Moody, we've been talking with Free Will Baptist churches across the nation, and this act that has been passed by the Congress and signed by the President is intended to infuse a huge amount of working capital into the economy. And the goal is to get it into the hands of the people, into the businesses. And what's exciting at one level for the churches and ministries is that we are included. So nonprofit organizations, churches, outreaches are all eligible for some funding through this act. Now, the process, just so people understand, is you're going to basically get a loan from the government. And the government is saying that if you keep people on your payroll between March the 1st of 2020, which you realize is a date that's already passed, through June the 30th of 2020, that they are going to forgive your payroll and operating expenses during that time. And so it's an opportunity, if you will, for the government to provide a way for churches to continue to stay operating, to continuing to be paying their people. And it's not something you have to do, but it is definitely something that churches or ministries are looking into, because it's allowing the church then to be able to retain some employees, to continue operating, and to have this opportunity to get this loan forgiveness with these funds from the government.
So this is really a first. It seems like for many of our folks, it may seem unusual or maybe even too good to be true. But it's out there. They can go online. They can go to your website. You can really walk them through the forms they need to complete, the kind of documentation that they need to have. And it makes sense if you think about it, trying to keep people working. And also it's kind of a nod that churches have a major role in our community and they're needed. They're part of the greater answer in our particular situation in our country today.
No question. And just so folks understand, because I have had a number of good pastors call me and say, well, government funding and control, and how is this going to interface with our ministry? Well, certainly don't do anything that you're troubled with. And if someone decides not to avail themselves of this, we certainly respect that decision. Some churches are sufficiently funded or some are uncomfortable with it. But I do want most of the pastors that are looking at this to understand that this is a neutral application of this law, that they are not looking at your statement of faith. They're not looking at what you preach. They're not looking at any of your positions. It's equally available to Catholic, Jewish, Baptist. So it's not a law that in any way is requiring the government to get involved in your theological perspective or your preaching. It also, in the repayment, is done on a financial basis. They're going to look at the employees that you have and who you paid during that time period, and then they will give you the opportunity to have that portion of your loan forgiven. Now, I will say, as people think about this, that we're running into, originally you were to go to your bank, and that's still where you're ultimately probably going to get your loan funded from. But a lot of the banks are coming back with, we're not even set up. We don't have the form yet. We don't even know what to do. We're understaffed. Our people are at home. So we're telling churches not to be aggravated, but to realize that the banks are coming online. This is a huge amount of capital being infused in the economy. From the airlines to the churches, everybody's trying to figure out how it's going to come out and then be processed through to the people. So be patient with your bank. We are encouraging churches to recognize that they can go to the SBA disaster relief area, and that if they fill out that application, they may well be able to get some initial relief, and they are looking at that. Now, that's a little more limited. That's going to be tied to more to churches and preschools and schools in that area, but looking at getting the SBA application in may well move some things along for the churches. And so Our team is available, as you mentioned, online. We have a lot of resources. We will walk them through it. We've been doing what we call coaching sessions. Now, we're asking people to please read the material first. They don't need us to read it to them, but if they would kindly read through it, and then when they're ready, and we'd like for the key people, if you have a financial officer or a secretary that's working on it, if they're available, we will help walk them through that and make sure their applications are filed timely. It is anticipated it's going to be a couple of weeks before these loans actually start matriculating through the CARES Act. And so the churches are still going to have to be patient in managing their cash. Some churches are saying, well, we have enough cash. I think we can make it. Should we consider it? And I've encouraged them to consider it because it will give them this forgiveness for the employees and those that they carry during this time. But it will also give them some freedom. So, for example, the Bible colleges are going to be under tremendous pressure. Missionaries and others are going to be under tremendous pressure. And so if you're able to get a 90-day forgiveness and all your staff and all your employees are paid, you can then take your other cash as a church or a ministry that you've amassed, and you could reallocate that towards spiritual purposes. And so I'm encouraging even well-funded churches to think about this. Because again, the goal of it is to make sure that the organizations that retain employees during this difficult moment are then reimbursed by the government through this forgiveness program. And so I'm encouraging ministries to look at this as an opportunity for them to have their payroll covered and then look at other ways that they can be a blessing to hurting ministries.
That's great. So we encourage our folks to go to the ncll.org, go to the website there, read the information that you guys have already provided. You guys have a couple of podcasts that folks could look at, pay attention to, and look at that information. And then just think of this almost as a stewardship issue. All of our ministries are going to be hurting. All of them are going to have particular needs. And so if this takes a little bit of worry off of you as a ministry or as your church, this is a good thing, a good way to help out. Well, thank you, Attorney Gibbs. Is there anything else you think before we sign off for today, at least?
No, I would just encourage the churches to be in prayer. I do want to and we had some conversations today, Easter is coming up. A lot of churches are troubled about that. May, Mother's Day, Memorial Day. We're looking at some fairly major weekends where churches have a lot of ministry opportunity. And it's looking more and more likely that these stay-at-home mandates and other things are going to still be in place in many parts of the country. And so if you have any questions, we're beginning to get into some complex situations. I had some friends in Western Carolina that were doing drive-in church. Sheriff's fine with it. The health department's fine with it. But some in Raleigh are indicating they may not like it. And so people are beginning to try to balance, what do we do? And we are certainly encouraging churches to be creative. We want maximum ministry during this time. But we also want to keep people safe. And so we are helping churches evaluate their situation and making sure that they understand their region. We've had conflicting rules from a health department and a sheriff and a governor's office and a mayor's office. And some churches have been like, we've got 4 different instructions. And so we've been kind of walking through some of this, helping people understand it. But I would encourage the pastors and the ministry leaders, their voices are needed now like never before to encourage people. We are going to get through this. The Lord's going to help us through it. But if they have any questions on what they can or can't do, they're welcome to call as well.
Excellent. And we encourage our folks, give a little bit of grace to your public officials, your health department officials, because what was okay yesterday may not be okay tomorrow. It's really a dynamic situation that's changing from moment to moment. So just kind of remember that they're doing the best that they can. There are people we're also trying to reach and witness to, and often they're even believers. And if they'll listen to the advice you've given, it'll go a long way and help us to truly be salt and light in this difficult time. Well, thank you, my friend. We appreciate you as always and taking the time to talk with us. And we encourage folks to look at the website there, the material that's there, and we'll post it as well underneath this podcast. And just Godspeed to you as you continue to work and serve our Master in helping people during this difficult time.
Dr. Moody, thank you for you and your leadership, and we're honored to stand with you. Together, we're going to exalt the name of our Savior.
God bless you. Thank you, brother.